So the first thing I do once I have the wheel off is stick a screwdriver between the caliper and the rotor. Stick a screwdriver between the caliper and the rotor, right opposite the piston, and pry it forward so that you compress the caliper a little bit. See, now the caliper's loose. Then you start to loosen off your caliper bolts. Now your caliper should slide off. And you can put it aside for the time being. Just don't let it hang by the brake hose. Try to hook it somewhere safe. Let's pop out these old brake pads. Now you want to check to see that your caliper slide pins move easily, because if they don't, you're going to have brake problems very soon in the future. This one here is a little bit stiff. What you're going to want to do is pull them both out. Clean them up. See how they're all rusty. Basically just clean them up really good with a wire wheel and some brake clean. Same with the holes that they go into. And you're going to want to use some silicone lube there. So some silicone grease. Don't use anti-seize because it'll just make things worse. So let's get the brake hardware off. And we'll start the most important part of a brake job, which is making sure everything's clean and rust free. Basically under where the shims go, the slides, your caliper pin bores and the pins themselves. And also you can take some rust off your rotor. That just gets rid of any ridge of rust that might be around the edge here, just so that your new pads don't wear out in a weird pattern. Now for cleaning these brackets, the best thing is to remove the whole bracket, the two bolts at the back, and then bring it over to a wire wheel and just make sure this is perfectly clean. Just for my purposes today, I don't have that right now, and I'm just going to do my best leaving it on, using a screwdriver and a file to get this nice and clean. We'll see how good I can get it. But if you're going to do this with a screwdriver, borrow somebody else's so then you don't ruin yours. Just joking, by the way. When you're done cleaning everything, then it's time to compress your pistons. So basically I just put the old brake pad in backwards against the pistons. Then I use any type of clamp, in this case a vice grip. Just push them back in. A little bit at a time. When they stop going, you know you're in all the way. Don't force it. I'm going to lubricate my slide pins. You don't need too much. Just a thin film to coat everything. Just make sure the boots are seated and that it moves nice and free. Now that your pistons are compressed and everything's cleaned up, you're going to want to put some grease where the hardware is going to sit, just to protect from rust building up there in the future. If you don't, it's just going to rust really quickly and push those shims tight against the brake pad. It's going to lock it in place. That's the problem. So you can use this purple stuff, which is a ceramic paste. Works really well. And you clip your hardware on. Like so. Just make sure it clips all the way in, and never put any lube on top of the hardware. The stainless steel is there to be the smooth surface that the brake pad rides on. If you put any grease there, it's going to collect grit and grime, and it's just going to lock up and it's not going to slide smoothly. So the key is don't put any lubricant on top of your hardware. So go ahead. So I'll go ahead and put this other clip in there. Now you can test fit your brake pads. Just make sure that they're going to be in there and nice and smooth. See how nice that goes in? My rotor's sitting out a little bit, but there. Slide super smooth, almost no resistance. They're nicely in there. Test the other side out. Yeah, and this side, also really nice fit. Now, to prevent your brakes from squealing, you're going to want to put some ceramic lubricant or silicone lube on the back of the pads, or you can do what I do and lubricate the pistons and the caliper. Oh yeah, and I have to replace this spring here. What this spring does, it just pushes in on the pads themselves just to keep them tight and stop them from rattling. Now you can slip the caliper back over the caliper bracket in the pads. Just make sure that these pins are kind of in. Sometimes they're going to want to spring out, and turn the right way so that the caliper fits on. Make sure not to get your brake line twisted. Now you can get your caliper bolts lined up. Just start one. And get the other one going. Now you can check that your caliper moves freely. And now you're basically done. You can put the wheel back on, torque your lug nuts, then you're going to have to pump up your brakes just to move the pistons back out so that it takes up all the slop here, and you're good to go.